find he. That's when you find he's gone up to the pub and left us sitting here on the own.
I said quiet in the studio. Gosh. There we go, we're here. And you guys couldn't get your act together, could you? You couldn't stay quiet, could you, noodles? Right, we can hear you in the background, but we can't hear you, and we can't see you out front. So I'm just going to do a quick intro for you guys. So it's welcome to the Tartan Truth Bombs, and we've got the Scottish correspondents from Cheshire Matters, okay, here with us tonight. You can't see them yet, but you will be seeing them. So where we are is here. We're going to skewer the woke nonsense and serve up Scotland's current trends with a side of salt and a dram of sanity. Who's the sanity coming from? Is it coming from you, Mike, or is it coming from you, Graham? Right, well, this is your...
Very much me, Jonathan.
Well, okay, this is your host, AbFab, right-wing rabble-rouser, here to dissect the madness of April the 1st, 2025. Right, well, here's something that I've got at the moment. The SNP's turned Scotland into a socialist dystopia. Rent caps are out, landlord love is in, and council tax is up faster than a piper's kilt in a gale. Piper's kilt? That must be you, Mike.
Only me, I'm afraid so.
Well, knife crime's ticking up, but don't worry. The violence reduction unit's got it. They'll just hug the blade-wielding Neds into submission. Meanwhile, poverty targets are missed, kids go hungry, and John Swinney's probably blaming Thatcher's ghost. And for a laugh, The Guardian says we'd drive on the right if we ditch the union. Is that right?
Probably.
If we get away with it, yeah.
We would go full Euro, in other words. Maybe talking French and German and you name it.
Well, let's crack on. Let's see what's coming. Here we go. This is the three of us. There he is, Graham Cuttle, the Cutter, Mike Daly. There he is. All right, and I'm telling you now, take a look at the breaking news, guys, and tell me what you think.
I don't think Mike Daly could do it thrice daily, to tell you the truth, but that's just my opinion.
It's not what you know, it's who you know.
I do think, see your lead in there, Jonathan. I do think making two Scotsmen look at a pint for a minute and a half was a wee bit too much.
Yeah, I know.
We had to break silence there, I'm afraid.
That's all right.
That one.
And there you go. The Cutter is being forced to reduce the size of his sharp wit.
Never.
In case it gets him into trouble and arrested. Look at that. There's the breaking news there. Okay. I tell you what, pretty soon you're going to get arrested for sarcasm. That's going to be the next law that comes in.
I think it's actually going that way, Jonathan. I think it's bonkers. You can't even say anything now.
No. There's no free speech.
No, that's gone. Well, that's one of the subjects on that we're going to be talking about tonight. Scottish people have now been advised they're no longer Scottish. They are simply of Celtic origin. So there's no such thing, and have to learn Geordie accents. How about that?
Well,
aye, man.
It depends what you mean by Celtic origins.
Hey.
Oh, so you could be Welsh?
No.
You don't admit to that.
No,
But you are admitting to beating the Welsh with your girls' team in rugby, aren't you?
Well, you know what I mean. Things happen, don't they? Things happen.
So, are the Scotland girls' team going to be playing the Scotland men's teams?
Well, it's like everything else.
Well, you never know.
The shout about fair pay, right? Equal pay for the women and the men. I thought, well, the way you're going to sort of deal with this is put the women's team against the men's team and let them play.
Well, that'll be something.
If they can compete at the same level as the men, fine. I'm all for giving them the same type of pay.
Okay. Right. Well, let's get this up a lot bigger. All right. There's a lot happening at the moment, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play you a video. Now, these are what I call reaction videos. Now, this is one of your favorite people. Okay, here we go.
Hello. It's just 4 weeks since I became leader of the Scottish National Party and the First Minister of Scotland. I came forward out of a sense of duty to bring people together, to serve Scotland, and to make our country as successful as we can possibly be. As in all walks of life, things come along that you don't quite expect.
Yeah, like the SNP.
Like
I
you.
didn't really expect to be facing a general election
Exactly.
in my first weeks in office.
Good.
But on Thursday the 4th of July, you will be asked to vote in that election. I'd like to take just a few moments of your time, along with my Deputy First Minister, Kate Forbes.
Do you see how tightly she was clenching her hands there?
Yes.
Do you know, I actually quite like Kate Forbes.
Oh, you do?
I think she's a sensible, intelligent woman. I think she's just getting dragged into all this SNP nonsense. She'd be better off joining another party. She really would.
I would agree with you there, Graham. I would agree with you there. She's got a wee bit of sense about it, but I think she's in the wrong party.
Well, I've got some questions to ask you after you've seen most of this, or however much you can stomach. Here we go.
To talk about what this election means for the people of Scotland. We know that the cost of living is at the front of everybody's minds.
No kidding, John.
When you add that to the effects of 14 years of austerity and the damage of Brexit, that combination of decisions taken by Westminster have pushed up household
Westminster,
costs.
there it is. It's
They've hit the
always
economy
Westminster.
hard,
Yeah.
and they've
It's
cut the
always
money
going to
available
them.
to spend on our National Health Service.
But we've never allowed the bad decisions taken by Westminster to constrain our ambition for Scotland. Our approach is to deliver economic growth so that we can eradicate child poverty, reach net zero, and invest in our public services. We've got a really sharp focus. Get the economy firing on all cylinders, and it will power a better future.
Two
Because
words.
Scotland's
Food bank.
potential is enormous, and it will only
Ferries.
become greater with independence.
Right here,
Pump
right now,
billions
within
into
our existing
ferries.
powers,
Okay, here's the first comment. Here's the first comment about John Swinney.
Emergency service in the United Kingdom for nearly 10 years. We've helped with the cost of
Frankie, I
living,
totally agree with you.
free university tuition, and free bus travel for under 22s.
And for businesses,
I think
slashed or
he
abolished
probably
rates
needs
for
a
more
bit of
than
toilet roll to
100
get rid of
million
that verbal
businesses.
diarrhea that's coming
We're
out
now
his
the
mouth
top
there.
destination in the UK
Just a bit.
outside London for foreign direct investment.
What a
And we've
load of nonsense.
established
What
the
foreigners
Scottish
are
National
investing in
Investment
Scotland at the
Bank
moment?
to invest in
Nobody.
future generations.
None of these
Scottish
achievements
National
can be
Bank.
taken for
Never heard
granted.
of it.
There's only one.
What about the investment in those ships, those ferries?
Oh.
No
Did
comment.
we actually... Did we have ferries? Wow. Never knew that.
How much can you take another 30 seconds of this?
Done, Jonathan.
Party that will
Oh,
protect
only if you pass me
And it's still ongoing.
That's the party that introduced those
No,
policies.
please no.
The Scottish National Party.
The fact is,
Honestly.
when
I'd rather
the
have
SNP
punched up
wins,
my eyes, by the way.
Scotland wins.
Yes.
So on the 4th of July, vote SNP to put the interests of
Why?
Scotland.
Why should we, Kate?
We're asking you to vote for a future made in Scotland for Scotland.
Sorry.
Right. Okay. Now.
See, I'll just say, years ago when they had the big majority, they had 50-odd seats, 59 seats, and they were all talking about,
Yeah.
right, SNP, let's get it. That's when they should have had their time to think for an independent Scotland. This thing's always been on the back burner for years and years and years, and it's never been touched. Independent Scotland, nothing's been done.
Yeah.
They've had their time.
My opinion of it is they've never done anything to convince any of us to vote
No.
for independence.
Okay.
The country's in a mess. They blow money left, right, and centre. We're hemorrhaging money, absolutely hemorrhaging money. Our NHS and our state. See if they concentrated on fixing the country first, and then went, well, look at what we've done. Do you think we're better off being away from the rest of the United Kingdom? And then the population could decide whether, they're doing a better job than the United Kingdom government. But until such times as they actually do that, nobody's going to vote for independence. I'm sorry.
No.
Yeah. Well, here's another thing. I'm just going to give Frankie another quick comment here. This is what he says. You ready?
Yeah.
Let's get him up there. I'm going to star that one. Actually, I can't. For some reason, it won't pop up. Okay, but what he's saying is, anyone who blames Brexit gets a kicking from me.
Basically, I'm surprised.
There it is.
Surprised that actually flag. Oh,
Anyone who
Brexit,
blames
well done.
Brexit gets a kicking from me. There you go.
I'm surprised they didn't actually flag in the 22 billion black hole that Labour's talking about.
Oh, Jesus.
Although they've not talked about it recently.
Yeah. But what they've got to remember, out of that £22 billion black hole, I'd say about £15 billion of that is spent on all these in the hotels and everything else.
Well, that's right. That's what the total is. It's around about 15 billion a year.
Yeah,
So
15 billion to keep them and keep them over here.
So
Well,
was the 22 billion black hole filled with money and then taken back out?
Well, here's something for you. Let me tell me what you think about this.
Because at the moment we're finding, I can just tell you from the people that are applying for our houses and flats, I'm talking a huge high number are foreign immigrants. Is that on the radar? Like
it is, particularly in Glasgow. So Glasgow City Council have just written to the UK government to say we're taking the highest proportion of immigration and asylum seekers.
Is that right?
You do see a lot of sort of foreign-looking people on the streets. I don't know whether they're all immigration or asylum seekers, or as I like to call them, economic migrants or illegal migrants. They're not asylum seekers; they're just here to get money. But there is a lot of foreign-looking people in Scotland now.
Well, the point I'm making is that he's saying that Glasgow is taking the highest number, and that's why they need money, right, to actually service it. And Rain is telling him that she's spreading it everywhere.
No, it's like anything else. You know as well as I do, they're not telling the truth. Yeah. If they were taking the highest amount of immigrants, they wouldn't tell you anyway, because people would kick up a stink. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I get it. Okay, let him finish. Let's hear what he's got to say.
Compared to the rest of the country, and we need financial support for that, particularly for the impact it's having on the housing market. So.
I like the people that are applying for our properties are like, I believe we need them for some of our industries that are really struggling to recruit staff, and we need their skills as well. So it's a case we need them, but we don't have any houses for them.
Yeah.
Go on, Mike. What were you going to say?
A lot of them are coming in that haven't got any skills. They're on about these people being doctors and dentists and everything else. They've not got any skills. No. What all they're doing is taking on the jobs, getting paid maybe £2-3 an hour, so they're driving the whole economy down.
Yeah.
I mean, see, if you're going to Glasgow City Centre, you can't move for these people on these e-bikes delivering Just Eat and Deliveroo. Honestly, it's every street corner. There's about 5 of them on the street corner on these bikes, and they're on the pavements and they're knocking people down and all the rest of it. And I blame the British public, in fact, for eating all this absolute crap they buy out of these shops.
So it's not the immigrants' fault; it's the British public.
Learn to cook again.
Yeah,
a healthier nation.
Is that right? Okay.
And
well,
that is, Jonathan.
Well, here's something for you. Let's see what else you could think about this. You ready?
Is this the most ridiculous, absurd policy to ever come out of a British government? I'm talking about the SNP administration north of the border, which has commissioned a report by a countryside quango which says, get this, ban cats. I'm serious. Ban moggies. This is to protect 57 million mammals from being attacked and killed by cats. When they mean 57 million mammals, they mean mice and rats. Good riddance. 27 million birds and 5 million reptiles. they've got alligators and crocodiles in Scotland. News to me. Where do they get these figures from? They make them up. Here's the thing. How can you ban cats? They want to stop them from ban them completely in new housing developments. And if you've already got a cat, you might have to keep it indoors, take it out on a lead, crawl, or build it an enclosed run area, which is what you would do for a rabbit. Ridiculous, stupid, and it's made Scotland a laughingstock.
Or what you do is get rid of most of these immigrants and you bring in South Koreans. And your cat population goes. You end up eating them, don't you?
Yes, they're a delicacy over there. Is that right? Okay.
Oh, that's right, you know.
You know,
Just
he's not wrong. It's not wrong. He's telling the truth. Andrew Pearce is telling the truth there. There was, and then they backed away from it completely.
Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that as a coming. I thought, what's next? What we're going to ban next? No birds are allowed to fly in the trees after 8 o'clock in the evening because they make too much noise.
I just couldn't get. I honestly, I couldn't get over that when they said ban cats. I mean, you know, how ridiculous. How ridiculous.
I would actually agree with that. I hate cats. I hate cats.
Okay. Well, here's one for you.
Like cats.
Okay. Here's one for you. You ready?
Yeah.
Are you ready? Are you ready, lads? Are you ready?
Go for it.
I'm gonna go for it. All right.
One of the biggest issues for me in Scottish politics is how Scottish Labour conduct themselves. Now, Scottish Labour have the benefit of being a branch office of the UK Labour Party, which means they can afford to be a little bit more out there in what they propose in their own kind of policies and literature, but then they can reel that right back in if the UK Labour Party doesn't want them to go that route. Scottish Labour's tactic recently has been to completely withdraw from any discussion around the Constitution to try and place themselves above it.
Is that right?
No idea.
I have no idea. I don't think.
Always thought about.
Well, you see, even though the SNP are a minority government, but in actual fact, I mean, because they're short of one place of a majority, okay? Mm-hmm. But Labour, how much influence do they really have? Because Labour have only got 30-something members, MSPs, okay? Yeah. So, but because Labour is in control of Westminster, does that have any effect? Is this guy, what he's saying, is this the truth?
No, not that I'm aware of.
So basically you're saying that the SNP are running the show completely?
Well, totally, Jonathan.
He's the First Minister. He's the one that says this, that, the next thing. All they do is argue about this and argue about that, but it never gets passed. Nothing ever gets passed. I mean... See,
the thing is, they're still secretly in bed with the Greens.
Right.
Although the Greens have said they don't deal with the SNP anymore, they're still in bed with the Greens.
Yeah.
In my opinion, anyway.
Okay, I'll carry on. Here we go.
And what that leads into is that you've got policies that Scottish Labour supports and votes for, but then almost retracts their support when it runs into, you know, the UK government wanting to block certain things, like the Gender Recognition Act and like the Deposit Return Scheme.
Now, the Gender Recognition Act, that needed blocking, did you not think?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I said it on the podcast a long time ago, Jonathan, that was one of the best things that ever happened.
Yeah.
Because I think if I remember rightly, you had about 26 different forms of gender, something like that. There was some
unbelievable.
Forms of, listen, you're either a man or a woman. End of story.
That's it. You know, well, unless sometimes I identify as a miserable bastard.
Yeah, is that not the majority of the time?
Yeah, that's a different gender. I sometimes identify as a toaster, but that's another thing.
As Donald Trump said, there's only two genders, male and female.
Male and female. You know, that's right. It. Okay, and thank God I'm not a female because, you know, I mean, I'm in a house with 3 women, okay, and I just don't know what personality they're going to wake up with in the morning. So it's a little bit of a problem. You know, I'm gonna get people like, you know, typing up comments now saying you misogynist, you know.
Well, realistically, you are, Jonathan. Let's call a spade a spade.
I just seen that axe flying past your head there.
I know it's gonna come out of the knives. I know. I mean, I've said this before, and I've done this joke so many times at the supermarket. When I've been in there, I've seen the women, stocking up the shelves, at Sainsbury's, and I've said, "Good morning, good looking," and both of them look up, and I go, "I was talking to one of you. Fight it out." I know they just.
I bet they'll laugh anyway.
Well, it gives them something to talk about for the rest of the day. You know him. Ah, damn. Anyway, let's then finish off what he's going to say. Here we go.
So what you constantly end up seeing is Scottish Labour supporting and advocating for certain policies that they are willing to almost give up in return for getting a kick at the government. They get to say stuff like, "Oh, I wish the Scottish Government and the UK Government would just work together on this." But we've got a UK Government that's deliberately negotiating on these things in bad faith, and there doesn't seem to be any recognition from Scottish Labour on that. Anyway, that's my fucking gripe for today.
We're going to get banned for that now because he was swearing. Okay. But do you agree with this guy?
I don't know what he's talking about, honestly.
Well, I'll tell you what the point he's trying to make. He's trying to say that Labour pick and choose in Scotland. We're talking about they pick and choose, and as soon as Westminster, start ringing the bell, they just change to the tune of Westminster. That's what he's saying.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're given the agenda, and then they go up there in the Scottish Parliament and then get torn about Swinney and all these sort of people, and that's it.
Okay.
There's not really got any big sort of power up here.
They haven't. Okay. And that's coming from people on the ground, so you're not feeling it.
No. As that guy a chip in the shoulder SNP supporter by any chance?
Well, it could be. Could be. Well, here's somebody who definitely is not an SNP supporter. This is a Reform guy in Scotland. Now, before I play it, how are Reform doing in Scotland?
I actually went to a Reform meeting a few weeks ago.
Okay.
All right.
It was very, very interesting. There was lots of, as I would call them, normal people there. It wasn't like sort of... no.
So all the people that go to an SNP meeting, they're not normal.
No, they're not normal. God, no.
All the people that go to a Labour meeting, they're not normal.
No. It wasn't as if it was all sort of far right jackboots and all the rest of it. You know what I mean? There was a lot of ex-Tories there, myself included.
Okay.
And a lot of sensible, educated people. So the Reform is definitely on the up in Scotland. I would say they're not quite there yet by any means. Well, they're on the up.
I'll play this and then I'll tell you a few things about what's going on in Reform over here. Here we go.
And there's a lot more young people getting involved in this party than I have seen in any political party.
Why?
I think they feel as if the world has been set up against them. I think they feel as if the system that exists in Scotland has left them behind. I think if you look at young people now, every opportunity in life, people in my generation, I'm only 28, although I don't look it because of Glasgow City Council, but, I'm still relatively young. My generation have had worse opportunities than any generation of gone past.
But what are you offering them?
Well, we're offering hope. We're offering them a chance.
What does hope mean?
It's about listening to them. It's about engaging with them. It's about...
That guy, I don't know who that guy is interviewing him, but what does hope mean? Are you stupid? You idiot. Hope means, you have aspirations for the future, idiot.
Exactly. Hoping a better future.
We will support building more homes. We will actually tackle the housing emergency that exists in this country. It's about trying to make sure that taxes are lower so that then people who are in working class communities earning under £20,000 are just over that threshold, are getting more of their own money. It's about offering people a bit of hope. And
there you go. So, well, what he should have said was, building more houses, but not for the immigrants.
No.
Building more houses for affordable housing for the Scots. And
indeed.
That's what I would have said, but he didn't say it. He didn't fit that in, right? So over here, right, Farage is getting a kicking. I mean, he's getting a real kicking because of this argument that he's had with Ben Habib and Rupert Lowe. Have you been reading any of that?
No, I've not been keeping up with that side of things.
Okay, well, they're losing. They say that they're not losing, but they are losing a lot of infrastructure. You know, people that run the branches are walking away. And there are a lot of people with experience that are walking away. And they're blaming Zia Yusuf. Now, I don't know what it is about that, but they're blaming him.
See, just on that point, obviously Reform are doing really, really well up until the point where all this kicked off. Do you think that other political parties planted people within Reform to cause all this disruption? Because Reform were really on the up.
They
to
were.
sort of knock them back down.
They were until that argument came up between Farage. Now, from our point of view, Farage has form for causing a problem with the party, because when Brexit Party was going, you know, he just up and left, and then the Brexit Party just disappeared. UKIP, you know, it paled, you know, within time, you know, and everything seems to be to the greater glory of Farage. And what was happening was Rupert Lowe was actually gaining quite a lot of recognition for the statements that he was making about immigration, about the grooming gangs. I mean, he's now created his own inquiry into the grooming gangs, and I think he's got over 250, maybe 300,000, you know, in funding to actually do the inquiry. Now, he won't have the power to compel people to come to the inquiry, but he will have the power within that money and the publicity to start telling things about how it really was. Yeah. And I think one of the main reasons, sorry to interrupt you there, Mike, one of the main reasons why this government said that they were not going to go into it was because I think it exposes a lot of poor decision making from Labour-controlled councils, councillors, and anybody from Labour in authority, and especially the police as well. Go ahead.
Not only that as well, if you look back at the time when the grooming gangs were going, who was in charge of the CPS?
Yeah, Mr. Starmer.
Ta-da!
Yeah. I get it. Right, well, okay, now here's one of my pet hates, and this will be the last one for the reaction videos, okay? Are you ready for this?
Yes,
They're based in Glasgow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you ready? Just getting up and he's leaving. Now he's coming back.
Some light on the subject.
Yeah, you know, you cannot get the people now in broadcast, can you?
No.
Amateurs, Jonathan, amateurs.
Yeah, here we go.
I just went for a
preface this by saying I have never ever used Scottish Power in the 25 years since I moved out of home. In all the utility companies that I've used, never used Scottish Power. But I'm calling them out because I keep getting bills sent here for owner-occupier, massive, huge bills for a gas meter that doesn't even match the meter serial number at our house. There was an account set up in this property a month before we moved in, and they're chasing us. I mean, I've had 2 different collection agents knocking on the door. 2 different agencies. There's been Connexus and there's been Moorcroft knocking on the door, threatening legal action, threatening, you know, accessing our property without our permission. And every time I try and ring Scottish Power themselves, I just get on an endless loop of press 1, wrong department, press 2, wrong department, press 3, wrong department. It's ridiculous. So Scottish Power, guys, you've got to listen. It is outrageous. There has to be a way that I can bring legal action against you guys, or civil suit, whatever, because it's so frustrating. It's so stressful. What I have to do now, for the 5th time, is produce the bill for the first utility that I used in this property with a different utility company.
Now, this guy says, there has to be some way to take legal action. There is. Okay? What he can do is he can go through the small claim courts for the amount that they say that they are owed, take them to the small claims court, add on his own expenses and time, and then just go online and do it. That's all you've got to do. And I would suggest that they put it in the name of the CEO.
Yes.
Keith Anderson. I would say Keith Anderson. If he's listening, okay, you know who I am, Keith. You know who I am. Because I've beaten you on 2 occasions. This guy has to take you to court. And the more people that do it, the more people are actually going to get satisfaction, and Scottish Power will then learn their lessons. I was going to put up I was going to put up a shot. They say the quickest way to get through to them, to get a communication, is through their chatbot. Okay?
Oh.
So you go onto the chatbot. You're listening to this. You go onto the chatbot and you say, right, it asks you, what's your problem? And then you're saying, cannot access online account. And then it says, improper request. And then you have to choose log on online. And then it turns around and says, right, well, if you log on first, then we'll be able to talk. So you can't get online because you can't access your account, but then it tells you got to log on through the chatbot. It's just like absolute madness. Absolute madness with these people. They really don't understand.
I'm looking at the pain in this guy's face just now, Jonathan. I just go back to that conversation you and I had when you were having your fracas with Scottish Power. And this guy looks as if he's been talking to Mosa, to tell you the truth.
Yeah,
Remember Mosa?
let's hear a little bit more from this guy and see what he's got to say.
I stress again, not Scottish Power. Never use them. And then I need to produce the first bill and the last bill. Like, why is the onus on me when people want to access my property to tell you guys that, I've even had people come here from Connexus saying, well, this is the serial number of the gas meter that we're charging, and I show them the gas meter and the serial numbers don't match. And there's not even there's 1 digit out or something. It's a completely different serial number. And I'm at the end of my tether now, and it's got to stop, otherwise things are going to get real nasty.
Now, how, when he says things have got to get real nasty, okay?
He's got a sawn off in the cupboard. See when he was talking about the debt collection agency, is there a debt collection agency called Warcraft?
Is there?
That's what he called them, Warcraft.
Oh,
Connexus and Warcraft. Did they send orcs round or ogres or something like that?
You've got to defeat them in a video game. Now defeat them your money.
You sounded like a video game then when you were talking. The Glaswegian accent started coming through the.
He's right. Talking to Scottish Power, you'd have more chance at talking to a deaf guy and getting an answer from him.
Well, there is a way. There is a way to do it, and I'm telling you, to anybody else out there that's got a problem with Scottish Power, go through the small claims court. You have to be correct in what you're saying. You cannot be, you cannot be just trying it on not to pay. Okay? You have to be correct, and you have to be legally correct. Now, I know because I can remember one time when we asked for our money back, when we were in credit, and they said, yep, certainly, we're just going to rejig a few things. We'll be back with you. And then the next minute, I got a bill for over £17,000.
Well, they did rejig a few things, didn't they?
And I was nice then. I gave them an opportunity. I said, look, you've got about an hour to get that right. Otherwise, I'm just going to contact the press agency, and I'm just going to get the story out to the nationals. Okay? And they're like, it's got to be a mistake. Go ahead, Graham.
Do you think the actual people in the call centre are just playing with you there, Jonathan? Go like that. I don't like this wee guy. I'm going to bang 17 grand on his bill just for a laugh, because I would.
Yeah, but it's a national news story.
Just to get a reaction.
When it's in black and white and you can see it, it's just incredible. I mean, the amount of mistakes that these people make is unbelievable.
They don't care, Jonathan. They're not getting paid a great wage. They can get sacked and go and get a job in another call centre within an hour. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they're just going like that. Be dick. I'm going to fire 17 grand on his bill.
The call center, what are they going to do? Because the last time I heard, okay, their call centers were in South Africa. Okay.
Well, they are. They are.
And
all I've done is take the word Labour and change it with power.
Yeah. Well, I just, I said to them, look, I basically said, look, I will not trust anybody in a call center in South Africa because they don't have to adhere to GDPR rules in the same way that a company in this country does or a country in Europe does. Okay? Now, that is a simple fact. And the press agency that were representing me when I had the argument with them turned around to him and said, Mr. Starkey is also an American, and he will be in touch with the Trump administration because Trump administration have put sanctions on South Africa. Okay. And I wanted to let them know that, a British company was using a South African call center. And the only way that you can operate in South Africa is by cashbacks. That's the only way, because the government gets their kickbacks in what they're doing. But anyway, so, the next minute, it turned out, I did get in touch with the Trump administration, to let them know. And then within 2 days, right, the US had actually put sanctions on South Africa. And it wasn't nothing to do with me at all, but it was just a bit of a coincidence that it happened, so quickly at the same time, And I really don't like these people, and I'm still with them because I'm making a point, I'm making a point, and they are still causing problems, and quite literally, I'm building up a cost case against them. I'm charging them £50 for every email or every time I have to read a text message from them. And every time I have to make a call, I'm charging them £100, and I'm totting it all up. So if you're listening, Keith, what's going to happen is Scottish Power are going to get an invoice from me, and that will be all my yearly payments paid off, because we can just do a crossover. It's up to you, because it's as simple as that. I'm just sick and tired of them, but there you go. And it's not because, I don't like dealing with Scottish companies. I do. I love the Scottish people. I do. I get on well with so many different people, But these people, nah. And guess what? This is what few people know. They're owned by a Spanish company.
Yeah, well, I'm just going to say that there is Scottish Power a Scottish company. I don't think it is.
It isn't. It isn't. It's owned by a Spanish company. And if you go onto any reviews of this Spanish company, everything about the Spanish company is replicated in Scottish Power. They hate them in Spain as well because you get all the same complaints. All the same complaints about them. It's unbelievable. So I agree with that guy. I agree with him, and I'm hoping that the message is going to get through to Scottish Power.
I agree with him as well.
Well, I can remember one of our friends that we were drinking with turned around and said, "What the hell are you doing dealing with them?" Nobody here in Scotland buys electricity from them.
No, nothing.
That's it, And if you look on their X posts, anything about Scottish Power, you want to read the comments, about them? They're just unbelievable. They really are. They really are bad, So, but anyway, I empathize with that guy, okay? And it's nothing against the Scottish people at all, but that company.
No, but it's not. It's against the Spanish people since the Spanish won.
So Mo is not Spanish. He was definitely Scottish. Mosa, that's it.
He was definitely Scottish. He was one of these wee man that goes like that. He talks like that. He talks to his nose. Hi, mate.
I can't wait for the press department or any of them to actually see this and listen to it because they think, oh, they can't say anything. Damn, let me get a message through to you. I'm also down at Parliament quite regularly, and I speak to people down there. How's about that, Keith?
Yes.
And I tell them about the problems that I'm experiencing with you guys. And I'm just going to keep at it until you actually obey your terms and conditions. And to those people that contact us at scottishpower.co.uk, if you don't put my account back online within 18 hours, Ombudsman's going to get another complaint. All right.
There's another 50 quid.
So
I would actually say a lot more there because he's actually online. You know what I mean? And he's live. So
Well, why not? Why not?
you know how these movie actors, the bit actors, they're not allowed to speak, but as soon as they speak, they get more money. There you go.
Yeah, indeed. Well, gentlemen, I have to say it's been an absolute pleasure as always, and you're much better than the English mob. I'll tell you that. You know, the Gazelle and the rest of them. Those noodles, they don't pay attention. I'm telling you.
Yeah,
right? And Mark's listening now.
Mark, how you doing, mate?
Statsman is listening.
Big shout out to the Statsman for Scotland.
And
the Gazelle. And the guy that doesn't exist anymore, and we can't mention his name.
Oh, hey, listen. We had him on the show, the man who must not be named. He was actually on the Jeremy Vine show.
Did he have a bag over his head?
I know he was calling up. He was calling up. So yes, we wanted to know how he actually got a phone dropped into him in the oubliette that he was in his cell. Anyway, inside joke. Okay. Thank you to everybody who's been listening in, and thanks to all the people who commented, especially Frankie. Thanks very much for that. Right, well, we're going to be moving off and we're going to be saying goodbye. So say goodnight, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Night to all our good friends down in Cheshire. We'll see you all soon.
You will do indeed. All right, take it easy.